prices soaring to the highest average ever recorded.
Highest inflation in 40 years.
Welcome to the third edition of the Future Leader Global Policy Forum, co-promoted and co-hosted by Bocconi University and by ISPI, and co-organized with OECD and T7 Japan. The forum will be now officially opened by an address by the rector and then the president of ISPI. Please.
Thank you very much. My name is Francesco Billari. I represent Bocconi University as the current rector, and I'd like to welcome all the guests, distinguished guests, authorities, students, future leaders, alumni to Bocconi. Bocconi is a university we are proud of, bridging Milan to Europe and the rest of the world, and the Global Policy Forum is a fantastic opportunity for us to host you. It is also a great honor to keep hosting this event. the Future Leaders Global Policy Forum. And I'd like to thank, in particular, the cooperation with Think 7 Japan, who helped us shaping the forum this year. Moreover, I'd like to thank the OECD for their support, and especially let me express the deepest Bocconi gratitude to our co-partner, ISPI, with whom we have worked and we will be working in the future. ISPI is a real driving force behind this initiative, and I'd like to thank you a lot. Welcome. I hope you have time to have a look at our campus. I'd like to characterize the Bocconi campus similarly to the Cathedral of the city of Milan. The Cathedral of the city of Milan was started about 7 centuries ago, and it's not yet finished. It will never be finished. The same is true for Bocconi campus. It's a bit younger, 120 Bocconi. This campus, a little bit younger than 120, but still young enough. But we are continuously working and trying to improve, also displaying a diversity of styles. So please have a look at our campus for those who are here in Milan. I'd like to thank all the speakers and participants who are here in Milan or virtually from all over the world, who will make this Future Leaders Global Policy Forum the house of constructive dialogue and exchange of ideas during these 2 days, which will be very intense. So thank you again, and it's my great pleasure to give the floor to Ambassador Giampiero Massolo, the President of ISPI. Have a nice couple of days and work well. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Giampiero Massolo. I'm the chairman of ISPI. You know, the lot of rectors and chairmen is to say hello and then to disappear. So I will try to be very brief. I also wish to make a warm thank you to Bocconi University. Our partnership is developing in a very nice, interesting, and fruitful, I hope, way. And this Global Policy Forum testifies exactly what I just said. OECD, thank you very much. You're our partners in this endeavor. And of course, also Think 7 Japan. While underlining Think 7 Japan's role, I would also like to say and to compliment that actually, this represents sort of an ideal continuity because the Japanese chair just accomplished the G7 nowadays, just over yesterday, and Italy will be holding its G7 next year. So it's an ideal continuity. Unfortunately, the conditions in which we all operate in the international community are not ideal. Actually, this is also because, and maybe it is one of the root causes for things getting as bad as we are witnessing, is that also multilateralism does not seem to ride high nowadays. It resembles very much, and increasingly so, a quest among governments, a quest among states. Of course, international organizations operate through the legs and walk with the legs of, with the brains and legs of their member states. But nevertheless, seldom in the past, the role of multilateralism has been so underappreciated. We really seem to have stopped to consider the multilateral tool as a useful tool to solve global crises. And this is maybe why we have global challenges, but global answers are lacking. So why we are not provocative? We should be a little bit more provocative. And the best way of being provocative is to betting on young leaders, betting on future leaders, betting on on young people. And so I would stimulate you to think out of the box, to try to envisage, to try to create something that I would call multilateralism bottom-up. Since top-down is not feeling well, maybe bottom-up we could stimulate a sort of refreshing therapy to multilateralism. And once again, we have to leave it to local communities, we have to leave it to ONGs increasingly, we have to leave it to local governments, to regions, to towns, and to the young people. You are our hope. I hope that in those days, this interrelation that you will be able to have with more experienced people will be fruitful, provocative, and maybe bring the multilateralism to be key for the international relations system back again. This is my hope, and I'll leave it with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We said that this 2023 forum will be mainly focused on future leaders, and there is no better way to start the forum than calling on stage two future leaders, one from the business community and one from the think tank community. Marianne Chissé, future think tank leader, head of research and project at the West Africa think tank Wadi, welcome. And Leven Tuzum, future business leader, principal economist at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRD. Mariam, you have the floor.
Thanks, and good afternoon, everyone. I would like to start to thanking ISPI and its partner for organizing this event and allowing us to be part of it. I would like to share some views about what are the challenges we face globally actually in the world. The 2 last years have ended with a backdrop of complex and unpredictable global developments, and even if these 2022 years were seen as hopeful, the difficulties and challenges are still very present. These challenges concern many important sectors, such as peace and stability, economy, energy, and food, which are deeply affected. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine remains one of the biggest concerns in the world. This conflict has caused a disruption of global supply chain, driving up energy and food prices, increasing inflation, and posing risk of recession in many economies. Unfortunately, Ukraine is not the only theater of conflicts of concern in 2023. Many other crises require our attention, most of them stemming from conflict, but also from climate shocks. Armed violence and insecurity in the Sahel have increased. Education, health, water, and sanitation services, which were already weak, are further disrupted. Thousands and thousands of schools in Sahel have been closed. The Horn of Africa also is feeling the full impact of the climate crisis. The region is now in a critical situation. It has experienced 5 consecutive episodes of drought, and it will result in continuing the catastrophe for the people, with at least 36 million people requiring emergency assistance to survive, including 26 million people facing severe food insecurity. And the current demographic dynamics also present challenges that we must reflect on. In particular, the aging of populations in Europe and its socio-economic consequences, as well as the need for the African countries to offer to their ever-growing youth education, training, health, and employment and development opportunities. Population growth also raises another challenge, that of better resource management to ensure sustainable development for the entire planet. And all of the above will impact on migration patterns and regional political stability while increasing competition for scarce resources. Another challenge awaits the world also, increased geostrategic competition among the major powers, particularly in terms of economics, trade, and technology. And even if this competition is considered to be under control and unlikely to lead to crisis, it may still have some impact on investment flows, global trade, and even the structure of international relations. And for all of these issues, all these challenges, It is more urgent than ever to reinforce international cooperation, regional and global connection models. Multilateral institutions, too, must reinforce and increase their role, contributing effectively to the process of crisis management and global socio-economic development. Research institutions also have a fundamental role to play. They must continue to conduct in-depth research which will document each of the issues and challenges, thus serve as a basis for better, more effective and efficient policy decisions. Through the many innovative projects we are implementing with young researchers from universities, research centers, and think tanks, will be able to continue to process concrete solutions to address these challenges and in a much more inclusive way. Thank you for your attention.
Dear guests and attendees of the Global Policy Forum, let me start with a thank you. Thank you, ISPI, for inviting me to share some thoughts on the future of business in the next decade and beyond, but also for your generous interpretation of youth and the future. You see, I'm part of the golden generation that managed to graduate into the financial crisis. Statistics show that our income prospects are doomed, but oh well. Here's the more interesting bit. 10 years ago, there was a very abrupt shift away from banking and consulting towards technology and entrepreneurship in terms of career choices for top young graduates around the world. That's how recent it is, and yet we take it as granted. What's remarkable about the past decade is how much the larger culture and spirit of entrepreneurship have taken root around the world. Now, was it all a fad? A consequence of the low interest rate and high liquidity era? Is the party over? Let's talk about the headwinds. Larry Summers and Olivier Blanchard recently had a public debate on real interest rates. Summers thinks they will increase and remain elevated, while Blanchard believes that the forces behind secular stagnation remain at play. I think we agree that liquidity will not be as abundant as it was in the past decade. At the core of this debate, though, is the long-term dynamic between savings and investment, including demographics and the effect on our financial future. And today, despite all these headwinds, I'm arguing that entrepreneurship, not just tech-oriented, but of all kinds, will survive and thrive even if interest rates remain elevated. Now, I can almost guarantee you that no prospective business founder finally weighs global macro forces before venturing out, unless they're a new, brave macro hedge fund manager. But they do perhaps look at trends, dislocations, and other forms of opportunity around them. Remember, only half of the G20 countries are among the 20 most populous ones in the world. None are among the fastest growing populations. And there's plenty of wealth creation and distribution yet to be done in much of the world. So how will a risk-loving future business leader think about where to deploy his or her time, effort, and talent? An obvious answer to me is the Global South, and in particular, South-South trade and business. The resilience of the entrepreneurial spirit extends to the Global South and benefits from the inbuilt forces of wider access to knowledge and cross-border investments of long-term capital. To be clear, business opportunities and successes in and among the Global South will not be limited to technology. In fact, one challenge and opportunity lies with infrastructure and logistics capabilities between Global South countries. I quizzed ChatGPT about its dream South-South project, and it first listed a high-speed rail system before flipping to a regional fiber optic network. Now, while large projects may not be the typical domains of entrepreneurship, they do require the same strong spirit to complete, and they do create long and deep value chains with new opportunities. To come back to human business activity for a second, successful future business leaders will need to acquire new skills and sensibilities, specifically to navigate complex and diverse needs, aspirations, and commercial practices of different countries, all the while remaining true to and mindful of the two crucial global themes of our time, inclusion and sustainability. The elephant in the room, I know you're thinking, is the US and China. Despite the conventional wisdom, I don't see this rivalry as a net headwind for creative entrepreneurs out of the global south. Let me leave you with one concrete proposal: to make better use of Mediterranean assets, geographic, economic, technical, social, and cultural. The Mediterranean shores are home to large parts of the global north and south, and they comprise fertile ground for cooperation, competition, and success. I have full faith in future business leaders to weave new threads in and out of this region for a more vibrant and prosperous world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you, Levent. You will hear a lot about the Global South, a lot on US and China in this two-day forum, but we now move east. Last year, we opened our forum with Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, a country which is still torn by a devastating war whose effects are deeply felt well beyond Ukraine, but also in countries which are just at the borders, starting from Moldova.